It was July 18, 1986, the kind of summer night where everything felt electric. Outside the Grand Union Arena in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, thousands of fans gathered for one of the loudest, wildest rock events of the decade, AC/DC's Who Made Who tour, a thunderous celebration of guitars, smoke, and raw energy. Among the crowd, Melissa Hartley, a 17-year-old from Cedar Grove, stood in line with her best friend, wearing a denim jacket covered in band patches, a Walkman clipped to her belt, and dreams of becoming a music journalist. She had begged her parents for months to let her go. It was supposed to be the night of her life. At 9:47 p.m., just as the band launched into their fourth song, "Shake Your Foundations," Melissa vanished. She was seen last near the concession area, stepping away from the crowd for just a moment. Her friend waited, then searched, then panicked. Security swept the grounds. Police arrived by midnight. The arena was emptied. Helicopters flew over parking lots, but no trace of Melissa was ever found. Not a scream, not a bag, not a footprint. As if the music had swallowed her whole. Her parents, grief-stricken and confused, launched their own investigation, plastering missing person posters across the Midwest. Tips came in. Someone claimed to see her at a truck stop, another on a bus to Chicago, but none held. Days turned into weeks. Her face faded from the news. The show went on. But 10 years later, in 1996, something strange happened. During a live radio interview promoting his solo album, Julian Saint, the enigmatic former opening act who had toured with AC/DC that summer, made a quiet, offhand remark that stunned listeners. "That night in Milwaukee, I still hear her voice." What did he mean? The host brushed past it. The clip barely made the air, but someone was listening. Melissa's younger brother, now 22, who had never stopped looking. And what he would discover in the following months would crack open the silence that had kept this case buried for a decade. Before we dive deeper into the mystery, we want to know, where in the world are you listening to this story? Drop your city and country in the comments, because sometimes the people who vanish are closer to us than we think. Julian Saint's voice had cracked slightly when he said it. "I still hear her voice." And at first, Melissa's brother Aaron Hartley thought it might have been metaphorical, but when he replayed the clip again and again, something in the musician's tone felt off. It wasn't poetic. It was haunted. Julian had opened for AC/DC in several Midwest cities during the summer of '86. A rising glam rock artist with a cult following, he was known for his stage theatrics, wild interviews, and sudden disappearance from the spotlight just months after Melissa vanished. Aaron tracked down the full radio broadcast, a low-quality archive from WKMZ-FM, and listened closely. After the comment about Milwaukee, Julian hesitated. There was a pause. Then static. Then, just barely audible beneath the noise, Aaron heard something strange. A whispering female voice, saying his sister's name. He sent the tape to an audio engineer in Chicago. The result? It's not radio feedback. Someone was speaking into an open mic. From inside the studio. The engineer said the voice sounded close to the microphone, but wasn't captured on any separate track. It was like she had spoken between frequencies. That was when Aaron made the connection. The night Melissa disappeared, she had brought a tape recorder to interview fans. She had recorded the opening act, Julian Saint, and she was planning to try to speak with him after the show. That tape was never recovered. It wasn't in her backpack. It wasn't at her house. It simply vanished. Aaron decided to go public. He contacted the radio host who had interviewed Julian Saint and begged for more details. At first, the man refused, but after a few days, he agreed to meet. Off the record. In a diner just outside of Kenosha, he told Aaron something chilling. Julian left the studio in a trance. He didn't even remember saying it. He kept asking if we had music playing in the background. Said he could hear a girl humming "Hell's Bells," He looked pale, like he'd seen a ghost. Freight. From that moment, Aaron knew this wasn't a typical cold case. His sister's disappearance wasn't just about a concert or a missed curfew. There was a reason the musician remembered her. A reason he heard her voice a decade later. And somewhere, buried beneath music, memory, and silence, that reason was waiting to be uncovered. Aaron dove headfirst into Julian Saint's past. He uncovered old fanzines, bootleg concert footage, backstage photos, anything that might connect the rising star to that night in Milwaukee. What he found was strange. In a grainy photo taken backstage at the Grand Union Arena on July 18, 1986, Julian stood smoking next to a security guard. His face was turned slightly, but just behind him, partially obscured by a speaker case, was a teenage girl with dark curly hair, denim jacket, cassette recorder in hand. Aaron's heart stopped. It was Melissa. The timestamp on the photo, 9:31 p.m. 16 minutes before she vanished. He had proof she made it backstage. The photo had never been published. It came from an old roadie's personal album, one of hundreds Aaron had found through a now-defunct fan site. When he tried contacting the man, he got no response. Days later, the site was taken offline. But Aaron had already downloaded everything. One blurry photo wasn't enough. He needed something stronger. He reached out to a group of AC/DC archivists, obsessive fans who had tracked every tour date, every lineup change, every mystery. One of them, an older woman named Doreen from Toronto, sent Aaron something that chilled him to his core. It was a digitized clip from a concert soundcheck the day before the show. July 17, 1986. The band was doing a mic test. In the background, faintly but unmistakably, a young female voice can be heard saying, "Do you want me to start recording now?" Then, silence. The mic drops. The reel ends. The voice matched Melissa's school interview tapes exactly. Aaron now had audio and photographic proof that his sister had been backstage with Julian Saint. But why had the musician never mentioned it? Why, when asked by police in '86, had he claimed he never met or saw the girl? And why, after that tour, had he vanished into near-total obscurity, walking away from a record deal, leaving fans confused, and retreating into isolation for a decade? Aaron needed answers. He traveled to Julian's last known address, a secluded cabin in the forests outside Spokane, Washington. It took him 3 days to find it. The cabin was abandoned, dust everywhere, sheets covering furniture. In the corner of the living room, a reel-to-reel tape player, still plugged in. Aaron pressed play. There was no music, just breathing. And then a girl's voice whispered, "Why didn't you help me?" Aaron stood frozen in the middle of the abandoned cabin, the girl's whisper still echoing in his mind. "Why didn't you help me?" He played the tape again. Same voice, same question. It didn't sound like an old recording. It sounded like it was responding to him. Now, chills ran down his spine. He checked the reel. No label, no date, but the tape itself was worn as if played dozens of times. Who had been listening? And for how long? He searched the cabin by flashlight. Dusty notebooks lay scattered across a writing desk, pages filled with lyrics, scribbled in all caps, growing more chaotic as the years passed. One line was repeated over and over. "She was never supposed to be there." Aaron flipped through one of the notebooks and found a torn-out photograph taped to a page. It was of Julian Saint, shirtless and sweaty on stage. But the background was what mattered. Standing near the side curtain was Melissa again. Same denim jacket, eyes locked on the musician. She wasn't part of the crew. She shouldn't have been there. Yet there she was, again and again, orbiting the edges of his world. Behind a loose panel in the wall, Aaron found a crate filled with cassettes labeled only with dates, most from 1986. Some were recordings of live shows. Others weren't. One simply read, "Milwaukee after." He played it. Static at first, then muffled voices, crying. Then Julian's voice, "I told you to stay away. Why did you follow me? Why did you—" The tape cut off abruptly. When Aaron rewound it, that part was gone, erased, almost like someone had intentionally recorded over the confession. Still, he knew what he had heard. He pocketed the cassette and stepped outside, needing air. The trees around the cabin felt closer than before, thicker, watching. That night, Aaron stayed in a nearby motel. He uploaded what he had found to a private server and called the one person who might understand. The retired detective who had handled Melissa's case a decade earlier, Detective Carmen Vega. She agreed to meet him the next morning. Her only condition: don't tell anyone you found him, especially not Julian. "Found him?" Aaron asked. A pause. Julian Saint didn't disappear after the tour. He was institutionalized. Detective Carmen Vega hadn't worn a badge in years, but she remembered the Hartley case like it was yesterday. She met Aaron at a diner just outside Racine, sliding into the booth with a manila folder already in hand. She didn't waste time on pleasantries. "You're lucky," she said. "Most of this was sealed after 1997. Inside the folder were copies of hospital records. Not police reports. Psychiatric evaluations. Julian Saint had been committed to Ridgeview Mental Health Facility in October 1986, just 3 months after Melissa's disappearance. The official diagnosis: acute paranoid psychosis, audio hallucinations, and self-isolation following an onstage dissociation episode during a private label showcase in LA. According to witnesses, he stopped playing mid-song, stared into the crowd, and whispered, "She's under the stage." He collapsed minutes later and was never seen in public again. Carmen explained that back in '86, Julian's legal team had paid to keep his breakdown quiet, protecting the label, the tour, and any liability. "But what really made me suspicious," she said, "was this." She slid across an old black and white photo, blurred but clear enough. It showed the backside of the Grand Union Arena, taken the night of Melissa's disappearance. And standing near a loading dock was a figure, Melissa, speaking to Julian Saint. Carmen had pushed to reopen the case then. But no body, no confession, no evidence. Her superiors shut her down. She leaned closer. The night after that concert, janitors found something under the stage, something that was never made public. She pulled another photo from her folder, a crumpled denim jacket, spattered with something dark and dried. They said it matched Melissa's jacket exactly, but the blood wasn't human. The lab couldn't identify it. Aaron stared at the image, silent. "And now," Carmen continued, "you're telling me there are tapes, voices, photos he kept hidden in a cabin? That means one thing. He never forgot her. And maybe she never left." Aaron's mind reeled. He asked what happened to Julian after Ridgeview. Carmen flipped to the last document, a discharge summary from 1992. No forwarding address, no medical follow-ups. Just one strange note in the margin, scribbled by a doctor. "Still hears the girl. Says she sings to him in his sleep." The final page was a prescription form, unused. Folded around it, a napkin from the radio station where Julian had whispered, "I still hear her voice." On it, written in shaky pen, "She's buried where the lights used to be." The Grand Union Arena had been closed since 1993. A structural fire gutted most of the upper levels, and after years of legal battles, the building was condemned and left to rot. But Carmen had connections. A retired city inspector owed her a favor. And by the following night, she and Aaron were standing at the rusted gates of the stadium where Melissa Hartley was last seen alive. Flashlights in hand, they stepped through a side entrance torn open by time and vandals. The inside reeked of mildew and burnt insulation. Graffiti covered the walls, crude messages, ghost names, angry lyrics. But beyond the noise, the building felt still, like it was holding its breath. They found the stage first, or what was left of it. The wood was warped and charred. The spot where Julian had reportedly stopped mid-song lay beneath a collapsed light rig. Carmen pointed to the edge of the platform. "That's where her friend said Melissa was headed," she murmured. Aaron crouched low and ran his fingers along the cracked concrete. It felt colder there, denser, like something beneath was pushing back. Then he saw it, a piece of metal embedded in the floor, tarnished, partially hidden by debris. He brushed away the dust and pried it free. A cassette tape, labeled in smudged blue ink. "Melissa, interview 7/18/86. His hands trembled. With no player on hand, they pocketed it and pressed deeper into the venue. Carmen remembered the janitor's report about something found under the stage, never made public. They found a narrow maintenance crawl space behind the main speakers. Carmen led the way, her flashlight bouncing off corroded pipes and rat droppings. At the end, a small grated vent. Beyond it, a hollow pocket beneath the platform, once used to store lighting equipment. Aaron's flashlight flickered, then stabilized. Inside the pocket, a rusted backpack, torn and half buried in ash. Beside it, a denim jacket, shredded, discolored, but unmistakable. Carmen knelt beside it and pulled something from the breast pocket, a Polaroid photo, undeveloped, and a crushed Walkman. She turned it over. Melissa's name was written on the back. Aaron whispered, "She was here. She made it this far." Carmen didn't answer right away. She was staring at the wall behind them. Faint markings, carved into the concrete with something sharp. Vertical tally marks, hundreds of them. Next to them, barely visible, a handprint. Small, childlike, pressed in something dark and flaked. Aaron reached out and touched it. Suddenly, from the other side of the vent, a sound. Footsteps. The footsteps stopped just beyond the vent. Carmen flicked off her flashlight. Aaron froze, his breath caught in his throat. In the silence, they could hear it. Not footsteps anymore, but a slow dragging sound, like something being pulled across broken glass. It circled above them, near the edge of the collapsed stage. Carmen raised a hand, signaling Aaron to stay still. Then, silence. A click. A whirring noise. Carmen turned slowly toward Aaron. "That's a cassette." They both heard it now. A tape playing, faint and echoing through the vents. The same song playing over and over. AC/DC's Ride On. But not the original version. It was warped, slower, the voice distorted, and beneath the melody, a whisper looped again and again. "Still here. Still here. Still here." Aaron pulled out the cassette they had found earlier. The one labeled Melissa Interview, 7/18/86. Back at the car, he had a small tape player in his bag. Carmen nodded. "We need to hear what's on it. Now." They hurried back through the corridors of the ruined arena, the music still playing somewhere deep behind them. Once inside the safety of the car, Aaron inserted the tape. At first it was what he expected. The buzz of a crowd, excited voices, Melissa's voice introducing herself, interviewing fans. Then, around the 12-minute mark, things changed. "Okay, I'm near the backstage now," Melissa said on the recording. "I think I see the opening band's van. Gonna try to talk to the singer." Then silence, followed by faint scratching. Then, Julian's voice. "You shouldn't be here," Melissa responded. "I just wanted to ask, wait, what is that? Are you okay?" And then came a sound that neither Carmen nor Aaron could explain. A deep thrumming hum, like a speaker feedback loop, but layered with voices. Hundreds of voices, all whispering at once. And then Melissa screaming. Not in fear, in confusion. No, this isn't the stage. Where did the lights go? Hello? The tape ended with a loud click. Aaron sat in stunned silence. Carmen rewound the tape and replayed the last 5 seconds again. The voice at the end wasn't Melissa's, it was Julian's, whispering. She followed the sound, I told her not to. And in the background, a faint voice barely audible beneath the static. I'm still listening. Julian Saint wasn't easy to find. After his release from Ridgeview in 1992, he had changed his name, legally, and dropped out of public life entirely. Carmen, digging through contacts in the music industry, eventually traced a P.O. box to Tremont, Nevada, a desert town with more abandoned buildings than people. There, under the name Gabriel Rhodes, Julian had reportedly lived in a rundown trailer on the edge of town, rarely seen except at the liquor store or post office. No cell phone, no internet. Just a man lost in the past. Aaron insisted on going. Carmen warned him. He might not be sane, and he might not want to be found. They arrived at the trailer 2 days later. It sat under a dead tree, wind chimes clinking against a rusted antenna. As they approached, music drifted through the cracked windows, a soft, muffled version of Ride On. Again, slowed, twisted. Carmen knocked. No answer. Then a voice, weak but clear. She followed the echo. I told her not to. Julian opened the door. He looked nothing like the magazine covers from 1986. Gaunt, eyes sunken, skin pale. But there was recognition in his face when he saw Aaron. You're her brother, he said. She wouldn't stop talking about you. Inside the trailer was covered in scribbled notes, lyrics, names, hand-drawn maps. Taped to the walls were dozens of Polaroids, none fully developed, all slightly blurred. In every single one, a girl stood in the background, facing away. Aaron asked the question that had haunted him for 10 years. What happened to Melissa? Julian lowered himself into a chair. She followed a sound I never understood. There was something under the stage. Not a person, not a place, a frequency. A door made of noise. He pointed to an old speaker rig in the corner. It started during sound check in Milwaukee. A feedback loop, except it didn't bounce back. It pulled forward, like the note kept going, past the amps, past the wires. She heard it. I heard it. She followed it. Carmen was skeptical. You're saying she disappeared into a sound? Julian laughed once, bitterly. You ever been inside a note, detective? You ever heard your name in reverb? She walked into a place where time doesn't loop. It decays. He handed Aaron a cassette tape. I tried to bring her back. I recorded everything, played it again and again, thinking it might reopen whatever door she crossed through. But all I got was her voice. On the label, in shaky handwriting, last session, do not play after midnight. Aaron hesitated, the cassette still clutched in his hands. The label warned in shaky handwriting, last session, do not play after midnight. But the clock on the motel nightstand blinked 12:10 a.m. Alone in the room, with Carmen momentarily gone to make a call, he inserted the tape into his portable player. It clicked, then whirred. At first, only silence. Then, a low, distorted hum. The kind that presses against the back of your skull. A girl's voice cut through. I'm still here. It didn't sound like a recording. It was too clear. Too present. The voice belonged to Melissa. She continued, her tone calm but distant. I followed the sound, but I lost the door. The room grew colder. The lights flickered. Julian Saint's voice emerged next, layered behind hers. Each time you play it, the loop takes more. She's fading. The tape hissed. Then the motel mirror began to blur. Aaron's reflection, gone for a heartbeat, returned with a new shape behind it. A faint outline, small, unmoving. The figure of a girl. By the time he turned around, the space behind him was empty. The tape kept spinning, but not rewinding. A broken loop. From it, Melissa's voice repeated, "The concert never ended." Somewhere outside the tape, from the motel TV, came static. Then, it turned on by itself. On screen, grainy footage appeared. A stage, abandoned, flickering in and out. In the front row, a teenage girl still watching a show that wasn't there. Carmen burst into the room seconds later, holding her phone. "There's a voicemail," she said, breathless. "Unknown number. 17 seconds long." She played it on speaker. Melissa's voice. "I'm here, but someone else followed me." Aaron looked down at the tape. It had stopped spinning, but the hum hadn't. From the motel mirror, a faint handprint had begun to form. Smudged, child-sized, pressed from the inside. They left the motel before sunrise. Aaron couldn't sleep. Not after what they heard. Not after what they saw. Carmen drove in silence, her eyes fixed on the highway. The cassette now sealed in an evidence bag between them. Neither of them spoke about the whisper on the voicemail. The part where Melissa's voice trembled, as if she wasn't alone. As if something had come through with her. Back in Milwaukee, the Grand Union Arena had been reduced to rubble just months earlier. The demolition crews found nothing beneath the stage. Or so the reports claimed. But Carmen had seen too much to accept that. She filed a quiet motion to reopen the case, citing newly surfaced audio materials. It was denied. Again. Aaron took the cassette to 3 separate audio analysts. None could explain the frequency buried beneath Melissa's voice. A pulsing signal that didn't match any known electrical output, analog error, or musical scale. One engineer simply said, "This isn't sound, it's location." He kept digging. On a hunch, Aaron returned to his childhood home, where Melissa once filled notebook after notebook with lyrics and poetry. Inside one, tucked between torn-out pages, he found something he had missed for years. A crude map of the Grand Union Arena. On the bottom corner, in her handwriting, a note. "If the echo leads, don't follow." It was dated July 16, 1986, 2 days before she disappeared. In 2001, 5 years after rediscovering the tape, Aaron started receiving letters. Postmarked from places he'd never been. No return address. Inside, always the same. A blurred Polaroid of a concert crowd. Faces indistinct. Stage dark. But in each one, there was a single detail that chilled him. A girl in the distance, turned away from the lens, wearing a denim jacket with the word "Press" stitched onto the back. Melissa's jacket. To this day, no one can say for sure what happened at that concert in 1986. The official report still lists Melissa Hartley as missing. But for those who've heard the tape, really heard it, the truth is louder than the silence. She followed a sound, and somewhere she's still listening.